I have to listen to my mom and dad complain about all the corporate logos on team jerseys now.
They're not like huge.
Yeah, who even cares? I can barely even see them most of the games.
Chris, tell me, what's this Rakuten? Why is it on my Warriors jersey? It's like, oh, God.
I don't even know who Rakuten is, but who cares? Stack that money to the ceiling. All right, let me do the countdown. We'll get started.
Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. That Gino here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today it is time, once again, to get deep in the balls. It's basketball time. The season is upon us. We did not do an end-of-year episode last year because things did not align properly, and so now we are going to do a little bit of a recap of last year's playoffs and champions, and then go into our usual beginning of season impressions and award predictions, our normal NBA show on this video game podcast feed. Thank you, everyone who listens to these and indulges us in this, because I know that it's a fair number of our regular audience. So thank you, everyone who chills through this absurd little thing that we do, because many of our hosts like basketball and like talking about it. So without further ado, let me introduce my co-conspirator in many of these shows, my two co-conspirators. Hello, Pete Busby.
Hey, excited to talk hoops. It's been a while since we've done this. As Gino said, fun fact for this podcast, again, not that fun, depending on your perspective, but I found it super interesting. So this comes from an article. I won't read the title because it'll ruin it. But apparently, hippos are much more carnivorous than we popularly think. So this is from an article in Mammal Review. Great title for a journal, by the way.
Review?
Yep.
Hippos, 8 out of 10.
Yep. It's called Carnivory in the Common Hippopotamus. And apparently this guy's documented hippos eating. Check out this list. Impalas, elephants, kudus, wildebeest, zebras, and other hippos that they either killed themselves or were killed by other predators. So apparently hippos eat like a lot of meat, and not just when plants are scarce. Basically whenever they can get their hands on it. Or hooves. Whatever hippos have.
They eat whatever will fit in their mouth. They're much like a pelican in that way.
They are even more terrifying than we all should have been of them in the first place.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they're like, oh, the hippo, they're really dangerous, but all they eat is lettuce or grasses. No, they eat anything. They are the apex.
They will eat you, given half an opportunity.
Well, that's good to know. We are joined, as always, as well by Chris ZombiePie Redacted. Hello, ZP.
Hello. Hi. Pete, I think we need to hold an intervention. It's time to put the proper number of seconds on the shot clock. We need to force Gino to say nice things about the New York Knicks and Coach Thibodeau. Gino, you've been in denial.
NBA Coach of the Year, Tom Thibodeau?
Yeah. Say nice things about the Knicks.
The Knicks seem well coached. I hope that none of their legs fall off.
Did you actually see that, like, Tibbs had like a 10-point lead and played all of his starters for the entirety of the fourth quarter? It's like Julius Randle's gonna die. He's gonna die.
Look, you do win in the first year or two of Thibodeau showing up and being like, everyone needs to show up to practice on time. If you're 5 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late. And then, Taj Gibson starts playing a lot of minutes, and all of a sudden all your young people are getting horribly injured.
What a weird roster.
It is a weird roster. They've got a lot of players that play really hard, try really hard. They need more creative ball handling and point guard play, because Derrick Rose has never been an incredible passer, and Kemba seems maybe washed, unfortunately.
It seems like he never fully recovered from that injury when he was with the Celtics.
Yeah, so I hope that they do well. They seem to be a fun team. They seem like a scrappy, almost Joe Johnson Hawks style team, where their ceiling is like the 4 seed, but their floor is like the 6 seed, and they're going to just keep winning about that number of games unless something changes. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they've got an all-star who like gets MVP chatter, but like everyone knows that he's not an MVP. He's an MVP because there's no one else on the team who scores that many points, and they have to justify a team being this good. And the only way that the league knows how is by making someone an MVP candidate.
And he'll get a Knicks bump too.
And the Knicks bump. Also, yeah, because most of the media is based out of New York and cares about the coastal cities and the coastal teams. All right, so there you go. I did my penance, CP.
Yay, he said something nice about the Knicks.
That's true. So before we get too far into the show, our normal shout-outs, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens, which will get you access to our Discord, where we have a balls deep channel in the Discord where there is often basketball discussion going on. You will see live talk of many of the games that are going on throughout the day. So if you like basketball, the Deep Listens Discord has stuff for you somehow. All right, so to start off today, and ZP, you're not going to disrupt the show with some sort of terrible food review or anything, right?
No, but I'm ready. I'm ready for you next time.
Okay, good. In that case, we can discuss kind of how things went at the end of last season. So the Milwaukee Bucks finally won their first championship, defeating the Phoenix Suns in 6 games. They went down to 0-2 and then went on a 4-game winning streak to win the championship.
They primarily went 0-2 in the first place because Giannis got hurt.
Yes. The Phoenix Suns. So let me just start by saying I'm super happy that the Bucks won. Pete, how did you feel about that whole thing?
I was on board with it. I would have liked to, Chris Paul takes a lot of shit, but I don't want the Chris Paul discourse the next who knows how many years to be about him never winning a championship.
That was my reaction as well. It's like, I don't want to deal with the slander that's sometimes directed at Giannis, but then also the Chris Paul slander is almost entirely unconscionable.
Yeah. I was happier that the Bucks won, if only because I do want the discourse about Devin Booker to be about how he's never won a championship.
Yeah, I definitely was dealing with, do I want the Chris Paul can't win a championship because he keeps getting hurt in the finals, or do I want the Giannis can't win a championship because he doesn't have a bag?
Or we
whatever.
Rekindle the whole Giannis can't shoot bullshit on Talk TV.
Or he has to leave Milwaukee to be a viable title contender. Any of those.
Yeah, all of the dumb talking points.
Small markets can't win championships. That whole fucking chestnut.
Yeah, so I'm glad that that's over. The only shame to me is I wish that I could have seen the Bucks playing a full strength Nets team, even if they would have lost. Just because that Nets team was so fun. Though honestly, anything that makes it so Kyrie Irving doesn't win another championship, kind of I'm for at this point.
But I mean, let's not be honest. Would you have actually put money on the Bucks to beat the big 3 Nets last year?
Probably not. Not with the way they were playing in the first few games against the Nets. With the way they played at the last few games against the Nets, I think they could have. But
I mean, they just had Kevin Durant and were barely able to scratch by at times.
Yeah.
The Bucks.
I don't think they would have beaten them. I think it would have been very, very tough sledding. But it's going to be weird this year because the Nets we'll talk about it later, but we might not get to see that matchup ever. And then on the other side, I think the Suns were maybe the most fraudulent finals team we've seen in a good long while.
I mean, you win the games that you're presented with.
Yep.
Every team dealt with injuries in some capacity. They were just one of the teams that dealt with the least injuries. And gotta say, it sure was kind of funny to see the Lakers completely flame out.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose your second best player to injury in like the second game, and
then think you can play him hurt, and then he re-injures the same leg within like 2 minutes, was it?
Yeah, he couldn't move. He like visibly couldn't move. It was unconscionable that he was even out there.
Not to jump the gun. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to this stuff, but
Yep.
is anyone happy with the solution the Lakers picked for losing last year?
We'll go over that.
Okay. No. Yeah,
sure.
we got to talk about this
Okay.
because
Okay.
I've literally witnessed Gino go through the 5 stages of grief with the Lakers.
I don't know that that's true, but let me just do my little bit on the Suns. The Suns beat a Lakers team without their second best player. They then beat a Nuggets team without their second best player. They then beat a Clippers team without their best player, and then they went to face the Bucks, who had exactly one. Like they had 2 games where their best player was either not playing or a shell of himself, and they won all of the games where they were playing teams that were mortally wounded. So I think that the Suns are a real like championship contender. I think that they would have in a healthy Western Conference been like the 4th best team in terms of playoff odds. But the only reason they got to the finals, I think, was because of injury. I don't think there is a world where they beat a healthy Nuggets team, a healthy Clippers team, or a healthy Lakers team. So that was just very frustrating to see a team with that much unearned swagger getting to the finals. And
the one negative consequence for the Bucks is that because they won the championship, the level of apologism for Coach Bud's schemes and rotations and fucking minutes.
I mean, he did a bad job in the Nets series, but I think he did
a bad job in literally every matchup on the Eastern playoff series.
That's not true. They
every single
destroyed
one.
the Heat in round 1, and I
fucking
think
that whatever. But like Coach Bud in the playoffs is a real problem. Like an actual genuine problem.
I think they were fine against the Hawks. I don't know what else. Like they were down Giannis for 2 of those
matchup
games.
For the Bucks, though. Like you don't need to worry about them nearly as much. I think
so. Then you're just complaining about the Nets series.
Oh, absolutely. He was
Okay.
completely incompetent in the Nets series.
He was definitely for the first at least 2 or 3 games. It was hard to watch a team with that much of a talent advantage at least one position at all times just continue to make terrible mistakes. Like Giannis would be guarded by fucking Bruce Brown or something, and then he wouldn't go at him, and then he'd kick it off to Chris Middleton being guarded by Kevin Durant as though that's a good matchup.
And even in the finals, I felt like there were times when Drew Holiday was just there, not knowing what to do, just completely aimless.
That's just Drew Holiday's offense sometimes, unfortunately. He's an all-world defender and a above-average offensive player who's a little streaky.
It's good to see an ex-Sixer getting a championship too. I like Drew.
Yeah, seems like a very good guy. The Holidays seem like a nice family. So yeah, happy to see Giannis, who is, as people who have listened to this podcast recall, I think one year I went, he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year and MVP, and I think I got that year. Or was I a year late on the Defensive Player of the Year? But I definitely got him.
I don't know.
On the MVP.
That was last year or 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago, I think, when he won MVP. Last year it was Jokic MVP, Rudy Gobert Defensive Player. I think it was 2 years ago that Giannis won both.
All right, correct. Yes.
So
okay.
Super happy that the Bucks got their championship, that Giannis got his, because I think the Bucks they were the best team like 2 or 3 years ago and just kept crapping out in the playoffs because Eric Bledsoe can't shoot. And so now it's nice to finally see them get it. So now moving on to this season, did you want to talk about some of the big things? Like, first off, Kyrie Irving is not going to play for the Brooklyn Nets this year because he's decided that he doesn't want to get vaccinated and no one can make him.
It's like simultaneously absolutely unconscionable and maybe the funniest thing I've ever heard in a long time.
It is very funny to listen to someone who didn't get vaccinated when there was no mandate say that actually because there's a mandate, I'm double not going to get vaccinated. Like, dog, you weren't going to get the shot. You didn't get the shot 6 months ago when no one was telling you to do it. You had early ability to get the shot and you chose not to. Don't fucking retroactively tell me that this is a moral stand.
Yeah. He's just a tool. Yeah. I mean, this is the same Kyrie Irving who said, just asking questions when he dropped a rap song about flat Earth.
He's a very cool guy. I ran into him outside of the Newark Stadium like the old Nets Stadium when the draft was being held there, the year he got drafted. It was weird. I was like, shit, is that Kyrie Irving? And I did not say anything. But
that is weird. Did he just like seem strange? Does he just look like a strange dude?
He was tall.
He was less weird then.
Or
no.
We didn't know how weird he was then.
That's a good point.
He was on a terrible team, and no one asked him very many questions other than, why do you keep losing? Yeah, so that's happening. The 76ers, your 76ers, are having a fun situation with Ben Simmons, their second best player.
That is, if Kyrie Irving is the funniest story in the NBA right now, I think the Ben Simmons situation is the second funniest.
Yes.
Just because Daryl Morey's like, fuck it, we're not trading him. Like, we will keep him around the entire season. We don't care.
We will make him miserable.
He just got thrown out of practice again. No one is happy with him.
Did you see Joel Embiid's, hey, he's still our brother speech in the middle of the arena?
I did see it. I saw the other quote he gave to the reporters where he's like, yeah, I don't give a shit about him anymore, basically.
No, that's exactly what he did, is he said that and then went to the stadium and said, he's still our brother. Don't boo him.
They're going to boo him.
They're going to boo the shit out of him.
So,
they're going to boo him until he leaves. Like, Philadelphia does not – they don't treat their players who are good and happy well, let alone, like, a dude who is, quote-unquote, wronged the fans.
Yeah, and I don't know what Morey's, like, fourth dimensional chess he's trying to play with this one. I, like, intellectually support the idea of not trading Simmons for pennies on the dollar, but at the same time, I don't see how his value will improve.
The situation has almost metastasized to where every day you keep him, he's losing his value. And I know I talked to Gino about it, but I feel like there's blame on both sides about this situation. Daryl Morey.
Most definitely.
I mean, Daryl Morey became the GM and then immediately tried to trade Ben Simmons for James Harden, and that clearly fell through, and Ben Simmons knew what was happening the whole time. And then after that, they had the playoffs. Like, they were the number one seed. Ben Simmons has a terrible series against the Hawks. He is immediately thrown under the bus by their new head coach and the best player on the team. He then goes to his camp and decides that he's not going to report, which, like, rookie shit, to demand the trade and then just not show up when they're going to fine you and not pay you. Like, the trick is you show up and then you act like you tweaked your ankle. Or you show up and you half-ass it so bad that they have to get you out of there. But you technically fulfill the, requirements of your contract so that they keep paying you.
My favorite thing is that this is a bit of a recurring story in Philadelphia. We all remember when Charles Barkley wanted to get out of Philadelphia, so he started eating nothing but fast food and put on so much weight they had to trade him.
Yeah, I mean, that's the move.
Sure.
The move is to show up and be so miserable that they don't want you around, not loudly not show up, because you have 4 years on your contract. You can't do that shit for more than a few years without losing a huge percentage of your lifetime earning potential.
Oh, absolutely. I kind of want him to go to the Magic, just so that becomes like the dumping ground for just broken Sixers projects.
I don't know, man. Well, yeah, that too. But I don't know if, Pete, you were a little bit behind for your love, but Mo Bamba's starting to get there finally.
My man. He'll figure it out. I trust him.
He's had like 18 points and 10 plus rebounds in the last few games.
Obama's got it.
He does
Whatever
now.
it
It's
is,
weird.
He's got it.
He's got a song named after him.
From a realistic perspective. Oh, sorry, keep going.
I was just going to say, he's the rich man's Hassan Whiteside.
He shoots better than Hassan Whiteside does.
He's not much of a ball hog.
Yeah, he just wasn't good at defense for a very long time, and that was the problem. He was very skinny and couldn't play, well, really anything, offense or defense. But now he's figuring it out. Good for him. So yeah, those are the two big stories, are the 76ers on fire, the Brooklyn Nets not on fire, but Kyrie Irving's not allowed to play for the team until he gets vaccinated. They are not doing like you can play home. Because for those who don't know, the New York City government has said that for I think it's companies with more than 100 employees or something like that, all employees need to be vaccinated if you have an indoor facility. So because Kyrie Irving's on the Nets, he can't play in indoor stadiums in the Nets stadium without a vaccination. So he would only be allowed to play away games. He couldn't play home games. And the Nets were like, nah, how's about you play fucking no games instead? And then you show up when you want to play all the games. So
Yeah.
those are the two big things. And then
There's
DB,
one more, though. Oh,
did
wait, you want to talk
about the Lakers?
Yeah, I want
Is
to
that the
definitely
thing?
talk about the Lakers, but you can have me commiserate about the Kings after that. Yeah. Boy, this situation with the Lakers, they sure did spend a lot of money getting a lot of people who maybe 5 years ago would have been very good on a team together.
I don't know if Russell and LeBron ever would have been a good fit.
I mean,
they're both
never would have
incredible
been.
talents, but they're not like synergistic.
They're not complementary at all. Like Russell Westbrook's best skill is having the ball in his hands and running towards the rim as fast as he possibly can, and then kicking it to a shooter in the corner. LeBron James's best skill is having the ball in his hands and doing the exact same thing. And they can't both have the ball in their hands. And then you're left the question, like Russell Westbrook, if he's got the ball, then LeBron. That actually kind of works because LeBron can shoot and will screen and will cut. But when LeBron has the ball, which is optimal for every team in the world, for LeBron James to be your ball handler, that means that Russell Westbrook's going to stand around doing fucking nothing. He won't screen, he won't cut, he doesn't shoot, so the other team just ignores him, which is great.
If you know what would solve this entire problem is if Russell Westbrook came off the bench and was the second string leader for the bench players. Because eventually LeBron and AD are going to need a break. Just have him lead the charge offensively with the bench players or the bench team.
Give him like 8 minutes a half and be like, Russ, this is your 8 minutes. Like you can do as much as you can do the most in this 8 minutes. And we'll just give LeBron and what's his other name? Anthony Davis time to rest.
I mean, the only problem with that is then you're giving Russ 16 minutes a game, and I don't know. Like, you can play Russ and AD, but I think Russ and LeBron are so anti-synergistic that you don't want them on the court at the same time most of the time because Russ just fucks up your spacing too badly. So I don't know how you're going to get $30 million worth of value out of a player who really should play like 20 minutes.
Yeah, you're not.
I much would have.
Can we talk about how my organization gave them a more beneficial trade deal than this Russell Westbrook shit?
It was Buddy, yeah? He was on the table?
Yeah, it was Buddy for the other guys. And a first-round pick.
Who was giving up the pick? The Lakers?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah, they would have gotten Kuzma and, like, either Montrezl Harrell or...
Yeah. I forget if it was Montrezl Harrell or it was Taylor Horton Tucker. But yeah, it was like Montrez, Kuzma, and a pick for Buddy Hield.
That makes more sense to me because Buddy's a great shooter who doesn't need the ball.
And also we could have gotten a power forward to like take up minutes from Marvin Bagley when he's not breaking his ankles.
Is that enough return? Is that enough return for Buddy Hield? Just feels low to me.
He's getting like $20-something million, so I think they just want to have that money allocated better.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't realize his salary was that high.
It's very high.
He actually kind of almost earned that money. Anyways, yeah. Boy, and within 2 games, the Lakers have already started to be a smoldering tire fire. The last game where they were against, the Phoenix Suns, which is a team we could say has an axe to grind. They're desperately trying to prove something. And then you have this Lakers team that has almost zero chemistry, negative chemistry. Yeah. To a certain point. You had AD getting into a scuffle with Dwight. You have LeBron basically giving up halfway into the game and not even guarding his man after a fast break. You've got Russ turning the ball over 4 times in 2 quarters. It's just a mess. And I get that Frank Vogel got a lot of credit when they won the championship 2 seasons ago, but I don't trust him
I just don't trust this many dudes who are this proud and this broken on the same team. Like Melo, I don't think Melo's been a plus on the teams he's been on for basically since he came back from retirement. Like, he's been eating minutes and he puts up points, but they are empty points because he gives up every single point on the other side. Like, when you leave him on the court against a competent offense, they just find him, and it's not like, when you would find Steph against the Warriors or something, or you find the weakest link, but the weakest link is trying really hard and like can kind of stay in front of people, but they're undermatched. Like, Melo is weaker and slower than most of the people, and he fouls too. So like it's just so bad. And then you've got Dwight, who's he's good for 15 minutes a game. He will give you 6 fouls in those 15 minutes. He will play very hard. You've got who else? Trevor Ariza, who's hurt. You've got a few.
DeAndre.
DeAndre Jordan, who has not been good for years.
Yeah, that's the one.
They got Sekou Demboya from the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, there's
been a project for God knows how long. And then, remember,
Rondo.
They got Rajon Rondo and Kendrick Nunn, and they still don't know which of those two is going to be the second string backup for Russ or the third string.
Weird roster.
Like, a lot of players
none
who
of
on
these make
paper are
sense.
good.
Yeah, like on paper, like you could be happy to have some of these guys, just not in this combination.
Somehow they ended up with Kent Bazemore at some point and Avery Bradley.
They're both good too. Like, there are a lot of players who are like competent, but I don't know. It's just a weird mishmash of players, and a lot of them are incredibly vulnerable on one side of the ball. Like, Dwight can't do anything on offense other than roll to the rim at this point. Melo has never been able to play defense. Trevor Ariza at this point I don't even know if he's good on either side.
No, he's not.
Kendrick Nunn is mostly offense. Malik Monk is only offense. Rajon Rondo kind of okay at both, but not. He's like one of the two-way players.
I want to be in a world where they end up starting Rajon Rondo over Russell Westbrook. I want to see that game.
He makes way more sense alongside AD and LeBron as a secondary ball handler because he can actually spot up shoot.
Could you? I think with this roster, you could assemble the worst shooting starting 5 without like breaking positions. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
so
you could
Russ.
You might even reasonably be able to do Rondo at point and Russ as like
shooting
point
guard.
2 at shooting guard. Yeah.
And then Melo.
No, Melo's too good of a shooter.
Melos can shoot. Dwight at center. I mean, like, even with those 3, like, it doesn't really matter who else you put out there.
Yeah,
they'd be the worst spacing team since, I don't know, the Josh Smith experience with the Detroit Pistons.
I miss that team. What a
fucking
mess.
Or
Greg
like
Monroe
before Gasol started hitting threes.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Allen out
Pete.
there.
You remember Josh Smith, Greg Monroe, and then Drummond all on the court together, and they could not space the floor to save their goddamn life. Remember how Josh Smith got paid for being really good at shooting for exactly 1 game?
Yeah, I actually do remember that.
If there's a lesson from that Detroit Pistons team, it's that you can have the most athletic, most skilled players in the world. It's some of the most athletic and skilled players in the world on your team. If none of them can shoot, it doesn't fucking matter because everyone will be able to guard them just fine. Bad spacing cannot be overcome even by exceptional athletes.
So now it's the Sacramento Kings misery tour.
Yeah, you can go on your Sacramento Kings misery tour.
Actually, you know what? I think
they seem fine.
They seem like they're going to be a fun team to watch.
They're probably not going to make the playoffs again.
They're not going to make the playoffs, and for any other franchise that has been in the rebuild process, that would be totally acceptable to say we've moved from pure misery to at least fun and young. But this just means that the Sacramento Kings will now set the league record for longest postseason appearance drought. Like, they are going to set it for 16 straight years. So, to which I would say, I don't want to listen to Pete and his words about some goddamn process. My team has not made the playoffs for 16 fucking years.
I didn't know Alex Len was still in the league.
He's actually
He's one of their 12
big
centers.
backup. He's actually been good for the team because I like Rashawn Holmes. I think the team didn't overpay for him. They actually got decent value out of him. But watching Rashawn Holmes get completely bodied by bigger bigs, it breaks my heart that man is not at least 15 pounds thicker. And then the same problem when they tried to play Davion, Fox, and Tyrese together, and they slide Tyrese to small forward. Tyrese needs to put on some form of muscle mass. Please.
You can't have your small... Well, it's going to be rough sledding for your small forward if they are... I mean, he's, 170 pounds?
Maybe more like 165.
He's lighter than I am. That's not great. I'm not that tall or that thick.
God damn, is it great to see Harrison Barnes play the greatest basketball he's played his entire life? Like, he gives a shit.
That man's a professional.
He does not care that the team is losing. He just tries real hard. And Davion Mitchell has been guarding players that are above him in terms of number of years in the he's 2 games in and he's held players better than him to their lowest shooting percentage ever. Tyrese rotating is my new spirit animal. I love it so goddamn much. I don't care that his shot still has that weird flipper motion. He's got a broken shot.
It goes in.
Hideous.
Who cares?
It goes in. It's beautiful. And
Kevin Martin never changed his shot, and it went in all the damn time. Who cares?
Yeah. And watching Fox relentlessly attack the rim is a good time too. He's very fast. I just wish that his shot went in, and he didn't have the Chris Webber problem of he's shooting like 40% with tip-ins and floaters. They just don't go in. This team is going to be fun to watch, but they might be like the 10th seed and play and lose in the first part of the play-in tournament. That is probably what will happen, maybe on a good day, but
that seems like a fairly good estimate for their final form is because there's only 3 or 4 teams in every conference that don't make the play-in game.
Yeah.
They're not as bad as Oklahoma City. They are not as bad as Houston, which means that then they are in the scrum with New Orleans, the Timberwolves, and themselves to be that.
I don't know if you've seen the T-Wolves. The T-Wolves have actually been really good. Anthony Edwards has really good chemistry with Cat.
I was very skeptical.
D'Lo's finally playing good basketball, even if he's still pulling that stupid shit where he doesn't want to make contact and just takes a bunch of really contested shots that he shouldn't take. I've
seen the Timberwolves. I have definitely seen that they are playing much better, and Cat is playing outstanding. Which, man, that he might be the player in the league that I feel the most for. He has.
Did you see his media speech where he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I want to stay here. What's wrong with me just staying in Minnesota and playing basketball here? He had a really I got kind of emotional watching him say, I've been coached by both of the Saunders. I've been in this city almost my entire NBA career. I want to lead them. I don't care what everyone else has said about me so far. And let's be honest, he had probably last year during the pandemic, probably one of the single worst years I've ever seen an NBA player have.
Yeah.
But his mother died of COVID. Multiple family members got COVID and passed away, and he got hit by a fucking car.
Yeah.
I want Cat to have a good year. Definitely.
Yeah. So the only thing I was going to say is I don't know that I trust the Timberwolves yet because I think they've beaten the Pelicans and the Rockets, and the Pelicans didn't have Zion. So I don't know that they've played an NBA team yet.
Yeah. With the Kings, I cannot. How does this team have so many guards and zero ball movement? It's amazing. They have so many guards, and none of them are especially great ball handlers, or they can't. Look at all these guards that can't create their own shot. Just look at it. Fox, Davion, Tyrese,
Fox
Terrence
can.
Davis, Buddy Hield, absolutely not. Robert Woodward II, I've seen him because I watched their developmental games.
I think the funnier part to me is seeing how many centers they have on their roster. They have Marvin Bagley.
But they need Alex Len.
Marvin Bagley, Alex Len, Rashawn Holmes, Damian Jones, and Tristan Thompson. They have 5 centers. Oh, and Nemias Queta. I don't know who that is. Oh, and
he's our two-way player. He kind of isn't.
And Chimize Metu, also a center. So they have 7 centers.
I want Chimezi to get more minutes. I really want Chimezi to get minutes,
they all
but
play
it's
the
so
same
crowded.
position.
You can't. You just can't give anymore.
They've got 7 centers. You're only allowed 15 players on your roster. It's incredible.
I know.
Do you know how many centers played any one time during a
1.
basketball? Oh, that's it? Wow,
Ideally,
that's too many
ideally
centers.
1.
That's
But
too many centers.
what if we had Tristan Thompson play power forward?
Sometimes you can play. See, I
What
was
if
going to get
Otto-
there. Sometimes you can play a second center, but they have to be able to shoot, so you can credibly have them play power forward on offense. But because none of your centers can shoot even a little bit, you can't play any of them at the same time.
I think this is a team. I want to see what trade the Kings make before the trade deadline ends. Because obviously Buddy Hield is not here to stay. I mean, obviously, and we can kind of get into a little bit of it, Marvin Bagley is not here to stay.
His parents are so mad.
It's not – I think I told you this, Gino. It is not his fault that he is now on the bench. It is not the organization's fault for benching Marvin Bagley and not starting him. Of the many sins that the Sacramento organization and upper management have made, benching Marvin Bagley is not one of them, because he has not been able to reliably start. And when he has started, he's not good enough to be a starter.
No, I mean, the problem is that I think you start him even if he's not good to find out if he will ever be even a little good.
We did that last year, and what happened was his body literally would spontaneously combust within 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know how to pace himself. He treats every jump – he just over jumps for every I'm
starting to think that picking him over Luka and Trey was a mistake.
You don't say.
No, I think it's a little early for that, Gino. Luka just leads the MVP odds for this season. I mean, he'll come back.
Can we go back to the Phoenix Suns and the weird bullshit for Sarver not extending fucking DeAndre Ayton?
I think that
and
Robert
then giving
Sarver's,
CP3 a max contract, and then also who else did they extend?
So I think that Robert Sarver's very happy that when you said the bullshit with the Phoenix Suns, you meant the contract extensions and not the apparently forthcoming report about how he's a giant racist.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
How many years did they give CP3?
Oh, let me look it up.
I think it's 3 or 4.
That feels like a lot of years.
It's too many. It's too many for someone who's
so it is 4 years for 120. It is declining on the last 2 years. So they front loaded the contract.
That's better, but still too many years. It'll be 40.
Look, I don't know what you're saying about this 5'10" point guard that you don't think his game's gonna age like fine wine. Yeah, I don't. The Phoenix Suns, they're a weirdly constructed team in some ways because their linchpin is a late 30s point guard thankfully he's maybe the smartest player to ever play his position, so he's figured out how to do it without the athleticism. But I don't know. At some point, he's just going to be hurt more often than he's not, even if he's still able to play well when he's on the court. So that's a little weird. Now, I think let's turn our attention. We've talked about some of the teams that have intrigued us. Let's turn our attention to our usual awards lists.
Oh, God. Must we?
I think we must. We didn't actually check in on how the awards went last year. Let me see if I can find. I wrote it all down last year.
Do you just want the list of winners?
No, not the. I want the
Okay.
list of our predictions.
Oh, okay. All my predictions were right. I got them all 100% correct. I remember
Way
that.
to go!
Thanks.
What a champion!
I was all over Coach of the Year Tom Thibodeau. I was like, complete faith in this man.
Yeah, I mean, I know that he's flamed out at every other place he's gone to, but this is the time. This
Is it. He's going to a organization with a proud tradition, very stable. I think this is what he needs.
Yeah, I can't find in my notes what we had last year, but that's fine. Let's just assume we all did great. Everyone won.
Yeah, let's not mention me picking Carson Edwards that one year.
Or was this the year? I don't even remember the guy's name. I picked a weird player for most improved on the Warriors.
Oh, you picked fucking. Oh shit, I remember this. He picked the Warrior player that everyone's.
Who's gotten worse every year since
Who's not in the NFL, the NBA anymore?
What's his name?
Marquise Chris.
Marquise Chris, yes. Was this the year I picked Marquise Chris?
I think it was.
So
tough pick.
Look, at least you picked. Oh no, it was 2 years ago. You picked Marquise Chris. I picked Jonathan Isaac, which I felt good about if he had not shattered his leg into a million pieces. And ZP, you picked Jared Allen.
I feel good about that. He would have been a decent pick had he not been traded to a flaming pile of trash, which is the Cavaliers.
This had to, because we had Rookie of the Year Zion, so this was definitely 2 years ago that I've written down here, because we had Mike Malone as a Coach of the Year candidate 2 years ago, and then also we had Jokic a year early on the MVP. We had ZP. You had the Phoenix Suns as the worst team in the NBA 2 years ago, which they were not. Pete, I think you were right with Cleveland.
Nice.
All right, enough rehashing. Enough of the past. Now is the future.
All right.
So we've got Rookie of the Year. What do we got?
I think it's based off of the two games I've seen. I think it's pretty clear cut. I'm going with Scotty Barnes.
Okay.
It was actually between that and Josh Giddey for me because I respect Josh Giddey's versatility, but I don't know. I think we watched that game together, Gino. That last game of Scotty Barnes looked really fucking good.
Yeah.
And he's going to get a lot of playing minutes on a team that has nothing to win, doesn't need to worry about winning. They just need to give him minutes.
He also had 25 and 13 in his second game, which is ridiculous. Pete, who do you have?
I'm going to be boring. I'm going chalk. I'm picking Jalen Green.
Okay.
I think he's getting a lot of minutes too, or going to get a lot of minutes, and he set Summer League on fire, which, Summer League barely matters at all.
Hey,
but it matters.
The Kings were undefeated in Summer League.
Yeah, good sign for the Kings. It matters slightly more, though, when you're a rookie and not like some third year who's playing. Remember when Adam Morrison was MVP of Summer League? I sure do.
Good times. I'm going to echo your opinion, ZP, and go Scotty Barnes. Because
25-13 is a ridiculous stat for a rookie in Game 2.
And he also assists, and he's also a very good defender. Like, this shooting, I don't know that he's going to shoot this well going forward, but he plays winning basketball, which Jalen Green doesn't. I don't know. Cade Cunningham hasn't played yet. Maybe Cade's going to look okay. But I think that Detroit's just so terrible and is such a terrible environment for any player to step into that it's going to weigh him down.
It's just that the current Toronto Raptors are this like Frankenstein's monster. I don't know how to judge them. That's why I kind of almost went with Josh Giddey because I know what that team's going to be like.
I just don't think Josh Giddey's going to look good because he can't shoot and he's surrounded by players who also can't shoot. Because that team's terrible.
Yeah, that team's at some point, OKC needs to build something. They can't keep. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, they need to. It's bleak. So one other person I feel like we should at least mention for Rookie of the Year is Chris Duarte for the Indiana Pacers because he's 25 or 24. But still a rookie and was drafted last year. So he's been putting up 20-point games repeatedly now. And he seems like he's very skilled because he's 5 years older than most of the rest of the class. So I think he's going to, give Scotty Barnes and some of the other younger players a run for their money in the same way Malcolm Brogdon did when he won the MVP. But I think that those kind of unsexy, just solid players don't fare as well when they're a legitimate all-star or legitimate, young talents.
Not
That
especially.
can beat them out.
As the person who watches probably the most amount of the Warriors, do you think that Jonathan Kuminga will play significant minutes this year?
No, I don't think him or Moody will. And I think Wiseman, it really depends because they have more availability at center than they do at small forward and shooting guard. So Wiseman.
Do you think Wiseman will actually start this year?
He might not start, but I think he'll play.
They need to play him just to sort of, if nothing else, see what they got. But their plus minus with him on the court just craters.
Yeah, and I think that some of that is just like he didn't know what he was doing. Like he didn't play in college, really. He didn't play in the summer league. He didn't get to – well, there was no summer league last year. And then he, was learning on the job. And now he's got an off season. So we'll see. Like he's been hurt.
Do you know Kuminga's nickname right now?
No.
Cum Bucket.
Mm.
Well, that's fun. Next
Put
up,
that on the
Sixth Man of
jersey.
the Year. Who do we think's getting Sixth Man of the Year? And
I guess I'll go first again.
go ahead.
My dark horse pick, but I kind of went back and forth. I think he will still. I want this man to have a good season, and I think my heart's going to go with. I'm going to go with Patty Mills.
Ooh, that's a good one.
He played really well from the bench so far. My heart told me to go with Buddy Hield, but I don't think he's going to stay as a
That would have
six-man.
been throwing your vote away. Pete.
But yeah, Patty Mills looked good. He's going to be a reliable six-man for that team, and they're going to use him a lot.
That's a good pick. My heart tells me to pick Sweet Lou Williams again, but
Where is he now?
Honestly, I'm not even sure.
He's at the great Wingstop strip club in the sky now.
That'd be a tough pick, but I'm actually going to go pretty far down the list yet again. I'm going to pick a guy I think who's going to bounce back after a tough year. I'm going to pick Tyler Herro. I think he's got something in him, and I think this is the year he sort of comes back from that sophomore slump.
Also, for whatever reason, Sweet Lou is back in Atlanta.
I mean, bringing the hometown boy home. I hope he gets around to the Sixers at some point on his farewell tour. But yeah, I'm picking Tyler.
I am also picking Tyler Hero. My only concern with Tyler is that he is maybe going to eventually win a starting spot. Whereas I think Patty will stay off the bench.
I debated if Tyler Hero would be a most improved candidate or if he would be a six-man candidate. And
fair.
Voted for
you're
neither.
stealing my thunder on what
Could
I'm
be
going
both.
to pick for most improved.
No. Okay,
We're on
what
to
is your most...
improved.
My most improved?
Yep,
I'm going with Jordan Poole.
that's a good pick.
Okay.
He is right now. It really depends on how quickly Clay will come back, though, which is why I think a lot of people don't want to pick Jordan Poole for that or any awards. But I don't know. He looks really complimentary to Steph, and Steph is going to be a very good basketball player. Breaking news.
Pete, who do you have?
So I considered a lot of guys for this one. I thought about Christian Wood. I thought
that's a
about
good
Michael.
pick.
Yeah, I thought about Michael Porter Jr. as well.
I have him as my second pick.
Yeah.
But
We're going to go on a run of some Sixers pretty soon here. So I did consider Matisse Thybulle for this one as well.
Not Tyrese
But-
Maxey?
No, I like Thybulle. But I actually am going to stick with Michael Porter Jr. I think he's going to play a big role for the Nuggets this year. I think it's going to be important to get him there on the court, get him some burn. So I think he's going to see an uptick.
I am going to go with Tyler Hero as well for this. He has been putting up like 27, 25 per game. His scoring has kind of jumped astronomically. His assisting is as well. And if he keeps playing like this, might be an all-star.
I see what you did.
What?
You didn't know if you wanted to slide him into one or the other, so you just slid him into both so you could maximize your chance of winning at least one of them.
You said that when I said Giannis Defensive Player of the Year and MVP, and then he won both. So sometimes
Just cowardly. Just cowardly.
You're a coward.
Fair enough. Next up, we've got it should be
Defensive Player
of the Year.
Yeah. Well, I think that a Miami Heat player will win Defensive Player of the Year. So I did pick a Heat player for something. I went with Bam, probably who I think is the most versatile defender in the league, who can guard basically any position, including the center position.
It's a good pick. So I looked at the past 10 winners of Defensive Player of the Year, and I noticed a bit of a pattern. So except for the 2 years in a row, Kawhi Leonard won 15-16. It's been all centers. Not quite a surprise. So I decided to pick a player that I'm pretty sure is as good as Kawhi, if not better. And I'm picking Matisse Thybulle of the Philadelphia 76ers. I think with all this, changes facing the organization, he's going to see a lot more minutes this year. And he is a crazy good wing defender who doesn't really do anything on offense. So he should have enough energy to really blow things up.
He did make defensive second team last year. That's right.
He's a quality defender. And if you care about betting, I don't, but if you're into it, he's a very good value, I think, at plus 2,700. So pretty far down the list.
So I similarly know that centers almost exclusively win this award. So Rudy has now won it 3 times. It seems that voter fatigue might just stop him from winning it a 4th time, even if he continues to be just as dominant. So then we turn our attention to the other centers, which I think have a claim to this. You've got Bam, you've got AD, you've got Joel Embiid. I think those 3 are, the top tier of defensive centers. I'm going to go JoJo because without Ben Simmons, I think that he's going to get even more credit if the 76ers are good on defense, and he's just going to get much more attention. People will be more inclined to give him credit for things in the absence of his second best running mate.
That's fair. I thought Matisse was going to catch some of that shine. That's why I picked him. JoJo makes sense.
Think that it's going to be an issue of how many games is JoJo going to play.
It always is.
It's how many games is JoJo going to play? Same thing with AD was how many games is AD going to play? And then I think Bam's going to be good, but he's surrounded by excellent defenders with Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry. So I think
we skipped over it, but Jokic won MVP obviously, but
he did.
Joel Embiid was ahead of him until he went down with an injury.
He's never played a full season, Joel Embiid. So you kind of got to pencil in he's going to be out for up to 30 games, assuming that it's not a season ender, like he just misses a ton of time every year,
or he gives himself diarrhea.
He's already hurt right now. He hurt his knee in the second game of the season already.
He said he's fine now.
He's getting him out early.
He says a lot of things.
Smart.
Next up, we've got MVP.
I hate to be boring here, but I originally was going to be the contrarian because there's usually one category where you guys are like, oh my God, I can't believe I originally penciled in Paul George just because I think that he is going to have a really good season, but I think Paul George is going to be in the same spot he was that last year on OKC where he's the designated third place guy. So I actually went with Luka Doncic.
That's fine. Yeah, look, I went chalk with Rookie of the Year. It's not a bad pick. I just, for whatever reason, I don't have a ton of faith in the Mavs.
Oh, no, absolutely not. But Luka is rising above the flotsam.
The Jason Kiddiness of it all.
In a rare display of hometown pride from me, I'm going with JoJo. I think he's going to be, like ZP said, he was in the discussion last year. Like Gino said, Ben Simmons is gone now, and it's pretty much all going to be on his shoulders for good or for worse. And eventually, this is probably wishful thinking, but maybe he has to play, mid-60s, high 60s games at some point in his career. Could be this year. Why not?
I am going to go.
Steph Curry. It's Steph
No.
Curry. Really?
No, I wasn't going to go Steph Curry. Though Steph, I think, is going to maybe win the scoring title this year. I'm going to go with the repeat. I'm just going to go Nikola Jokic again.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
like a lot of the same things that Pete you said about JoJo are true of Jokic, except Jokic never misses time. His second best player is also going to be out for most of the season. He is continuing to just go on destroying teams, and I think that his supporting cast now is mostly healthy, unlike they were in the playoffs. So I think he's going to be able to get his assist numbers just as high as they were last year.
Remember like 3 years ago when everyone was saying Jokic wasn't aggressive enough? Remember when
It was adorable.
It was really funny.
It was truly adorable.
One more thing I wanted to say about Luka. I do like that thin Luka might be a subplot for the year as well too. Just monitoring his weight throughout the year.
Yeah, it is very funny how much he balloons up and then shrinks down and then balloons up again. And now for the playoffs. What do we have?
Did we not do Coach of the Year?
Do we need
Oh,
coach?
yes,
Yeah.
Coach of the Year. You're right.
Maybe the least interesting award.
Yeah. The problem with Coach of the Year is that you always have to pick basically the team you think is going to have the best regular season record. And for me, I'm going to go chalk and go with the Utah Jazz and say Coach of the Year goes to Quinn Snyder.
Okay.
It's a good pick. I'm just looking at the odds list. Steve Nash is at the top, but that just seems a little too easy. When you have.
I also think that team might have some problems.
Yeah, I was saying if Kyrie gets it together. I'm going to go with Nate McMillan. I'm going to look at the Atlanta Hawks, and I think they might, they might barnstorm through some of the regular season with, young legs, post playoff confidence, and I think they'll, do good and then eventually get exposed in the playoffs.
I was going to go Nate McMillan as well.
Great minds, Gino. Great minds.
Yeah, I just think that the Hawks have a lot. They're just super deep. I think he's a good coach. I think they can overperform expectations just on depth alone. And I think that if you can get them to play defense like they did in the playoffs last year, this could be a top 3 seed in the East when I think most people would have had them lower than that. Though maybe now expectations have actually been adjusted, and since this is a media award, it's partially narrative driven. So
I also didn't hate him when he was on Indiana, Nate
No.
McMillan, even though apparently the fans didn't like him. Yeah.
Okay, so playoffs. ZP, who do you have as your Western Conference playoff teams? Or do you want to not do this? We can also not do this. We are usually wildly wrong. We usually get all of the teams generally, but not the order because order is mostly.
Can we just
determined by
say our
injuries.
8 teams rather than rank them?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So my 8 teams are in no particular order. Nets. You're writing this down, right?
Yes, I am. Of course.
Okay. Nets, Bucks, Hawks, 76ers.
They're in the East. What were you doing? Are we doing East or West?
Well, I said West, but ZP started
I'm
East,
sorry.
so let's do
Okay,
East.
that's fine. East is fine. Cool.
76ers. I'm going to go with the Bulls because I'm a little high on them. Then maybe the Knicks. And then the Pacers. And we're going with 8, and we're not predicting play-ins, are we?
Yes, we're just going with 8, and you're still 1 short.
Then I will also throw in the Boston Celtics because I like to see Bill Simmons cry tears.
Okay. And then, so let me go playoffs East. I'll write down.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Pete, who do you have?
Okay, gosh. Okay, let's take the easy ones first. Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Philly, Atlanta.
Oh, boy. ZP's going to feel silly about something in a second. Go
What
ahead.
did I do?
I'll tell you when I do my list.
How many is Heat? What am I at?
There you go.
Oh, I forgot the Heat.
You forgot the Heat.
Ah, fuck me. Can I scratch off Celtics and put in Heat?
You're scratching off Celtics and putting in Heat. Okay.
What am I at, Gino?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've got Nets, Bucks, Hawks, 76ers, Heat.
So I've got 3 more to go.
Yes.
3 more to go. Shit. Celtics.
Okay.
I don't like any of these teams.
I don't. Why is everyone
Raptors. I'm gonna pick the Raptors.
confident?
And that leaves me one more, right?
Yep.
We'll go Bulls.
Okay.
I don't understand why the Celtics are this bad at defense when they have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart.
Robert Williams.
They're just atrocious in terms of guarding the perimeter. Like, they are one of the worst teams I've ever seen guarding against threes and shots.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know if the coaching change even matters, but could maybe have something to do with it. I don't know. For me, so Nets, Bucks, obvious. I think the Bucks are going to be the 1 seed. Nets probably 2 or 3. Hawks, 76ers, even without Ben Simmons. Heat, Knicks.
Say it again.
Bulls.
I really like their
and
offseason.
Celtics. Yeah, I just don't trust that the Celtics are going to remain this bad. They're going to get better. Jason Tatum's too good, and so is Jaylen Brown. I wanted to put the Raptors over the Bulls because I think the Raptors are, a better franchise than the Bulls. But I think the Bulls just have more players who are talented for right now.
I really liked their offseason moves.
I hated their offseason. Well, I liked some of them. I hated some of them, but I can't deny that DeMar DeRozan's a good basketball player.
I don't like that Zach LaVine's good now, apparently.
Yes, I don't like that he's good
like
now.
that,
I don't like that now they've got a center who's like Nikola Jokic but worse at everything in Vucevic.
Yep.
So then West, ZP, who do you have?
I think that the current standings are definitely going to change to where they don't stay this way. But I do think that, as I said earlier, I do think that the Jazz will likely have the best regular season record just because their players are going to play all of their games. So I'm going to go with Jazz. I'm still going to pick the Lakers. I think they're going to figure it out. Nuggets, Mavericks, Suns. I'm going to go with Minnesota. Memphis.
Leaving the Clippers out?
And I'm going to go with the Clippers.
Okay.
So you're leaving the Warriors out.
Okay. Okay, mental lapse
And the
here.
Blazers.
I don't think
What
the
a
Blazers are
weird
going to make the
list.
place. Scratch out the T-Wolves and replace them with the Warriors.
Okay, that
Apologies.
makes more sense. Okay. Pete, who do you
I
have?
like as usual, we have opposite problems for the conference. Eastern is like, who else am I going to put in there? Western is always, who do I leave out? But my list: Warriors, Jazz, Nuggets, Mavericks, Blazers, Suns, Clippers, Lakers. Is that enough? I think that's it.
Warriors, Jazz, Nuggets, Mavs, Suns,
Blazers,
Blazers,
and then both LA teams: Clippers, Lakers.
Clippers, Lakers. Okay, so for me, I think my list just matches ZP's. Jazz, Lakers, Nuggets, Mavs, Suns, Grizzlies, Clippers, Warriors.
I hate to say it, the Portland Trailblazers did jack shit during the offseason, and that is fucking unacceptable.
Yeah, so you guys we're basically our lists are the same, but you're replacing Grizzlies for Blazers on mine.
Yeah, correct.
That's
Okay.
it. Yeah, and I think that money of this will come down to the play-in game for some of these teams. Like, I think the Blazers, there's no way they don't make the play-in team unless they trade Dame. Whereas I have a hard time believing the Grizzlies don't at least make the play-in game as long as they've got Ja. So
I don't know. The Portland Trailblazers are such a flawed team right now. they're such a poorly constructed team. Even if you want to say that their linchpin Dame is one of the best players in the league right now. Some might even say a top 75 player of all time.
The only team that I feel like could fall out of this list entirely is the Lakers, because if AD goes down, they're fucked. Or if
I'm
goes down,
gonna say it's the other LA team that is in a bit more of a pickle. If Paul George gets hurt, that team is fucked.
They've at least got more players that I trust to be competent than the Lakers do. Like, they're not as sexy names as Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard, but like Nicholas Batum, and like Marcus Morris are actually probably more reliable right now in their current forms.
Kawhi is also ahead of schedule on his rehab, so
To which I say, he sat out like almost an entire year with mysterious knee problems.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, the only team I feel bad about leaving out too is the Pelicans, because if Zion comes back and is not a shell of himself because he's 300 pounds.
Yeah, have you seen the reports, Pete, that he's apparently coming to rehab about 300 pounds?
Are there? I need to look up pictures now. I feel bad for talking about bodies, but these are professional athletes.
Also, it's just hard to move as fast as he does without hurting your knees when you're 300 pounds.
And he's not Marc Gasol size. He's what, 6'6", 6'7"?
Yeah. He's like 6'6", yeah.
He's a very athletic big that just needs to lose weight.
Like putting that much speed and explosion on a 6'6" frame with 300 pounds of weight, it's just asking for ligament damage. Yeah, so I would love if the Timberwolves were good enough, but I think that there are a number of teams in the West there are at least two teams in the West that have no interest in winning games and have no ability to do so, in the Houston Rockets and the Thunder. I don't know. I guess on the East, you've got the Pistons and the Magic, and they're just awful. But yeah, I think that we've got some pretty solid lists. So with that, I think we've gone balls deep in the NBA once again.
Do we want to pick? We didn't pick any title odds.
We can pick champion. Who do we think is going to win the whole dang thing?
I think it's still the Nets. Even with I trust Kevin Durant and James Harden to figure it out, especially with some of the other players that are playing next to them.
Pete, who do you think?
I just want to take a second to point out some of these championship odds. I just like to look at what the bettors think as well. Lakers are second at plus 400. Seems stupid high. Golden State Warriors are fourth at plus 900, which also seems weirdly high to me. Honestly, I don't really like any of the top teams, if I'm being perfectly honest. But I'm going to go Bucks to run it back.
What do you think is the expectation for Klay Thompson for the Warriors?
My expectation for him is that he is like a very rich man's Kyle Korver.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's been out, 2 whole years now?
2 whole years. I expect that he's still a 40+% three-point shooter. He probably can't guard the opposing team's best offensive player anymore, or best offensive wing. So he probably will need to pass that on to someone else, but he'll probably not be a tire fire on defense. And he didn't really do much else anyway.
No.
He mostly did catch and shoot stuff.
Yeah, my guess is he's still most of the same level of offense and like a decent drop on defense.
Yeah, so probably not like an all-star anymore. Like if he's Joe Harris, are you happy?
Yeah, maybe. I
think for this team, you'd be pretty happy with Joe Harris because if you're running out a Joe Harris-esque player, Jordan Poole, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and then insert whoever you want at that 5th spot. It could be Kevon Looney, it could be James Wiseman, it could be Andre Iguodala if you want Draymond to be your center. I think that those lineups would have as much shooting as they've had since Durant left.
Yeah, I'd be happy with it. I definitely wouldn't be 4th on the title list happy with it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think that's high. Oh, and Wiggins. Wiggins would be probably the fifth person in a lot of those lineups.
It's
Wait,
very.
wait, wait. You know what? We have Pete here. I'm going to seek Pete's third-party arbitration. Gino, you and I had the debate whether or not the Nets need Kyrie Irving. You said no, they don't, and I say a little bit of Kyrie Irving is better than no Kyrie Irving. So, Pete.
What are you asking me, like, if he should be allowed to just play away games, or if they can win the title?
No. Like, I thought Gino was saying that, like,
I think
Kyrie
they can win the
Irving-
title without him. I think that if they had him, they would be running away favorites. Without him, with him at a literal 0, you can't even trade him. I think they're still like 50-50, which is disgusting.
I would still probably pick them to come out of the East. Well, I can't say that because I just picked the Bucks. I'll still pick them to be in the Eastern Conference Championship without Kyrie.
Yeah, so like I think that they would be prohibitive favorites with Kyrie. And if they could trade Kyrie for pennies on the dollar and get a useful player so that they're not facing a literal zero, like $30 million zero, I think they'd be fine.
What would the strategy? Just like trade him to a team without a vaccine mandate?
Every team except for the Warriors, Nets, and Knicks.
Yeah, California and New York
could play him. And it's not California. It's specifically, I think,
LA.
San Francisco.
Oh,
LA and San Francisco.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, yeah, then they have, 28 options?
Something like that.
27?
So if you could trade, but the thing is, I wouldn't, if I was another team, like you have to be in such a weird spot to want Kyrie Irving. Like you have to want to win now, but also have a player who the Nets would want, but also you have to be willing to put up with his bullshit.
Yeah, you have to have a weird level of confidence in your organization to be like, no, we can definitely incorporate this absolute lunatic.
Yeah. And, if he just decides to retire, we're cool with it. I just don't see the team that would take him. But if you could trade him for pennies on the dollar and just get a starter, like a replacement level starter in his spot, I think that the Nets would be favorites. So for me, I think I'm a little bit torn because I think the Nets and the Bucks are like 2 out of the 3 best teams in the league by a long shot. And I think that they're going to beat each other up in the Eastern Conference Finals. And so I look to the West to see who might come out of the West that might be capable of beating any of them. I don't love the Suns. I think the Jazz, honestly, I think I'm going to go with the Jazz.
You think this is finally their year?
I think this is finally their year. I think that they have a pretty good shot of coming out on top in the West. I think that Rudy Gobert is still at the peak of his powers. I think Donovan Mitchell's healthy and been getting better. I think that they've got just a lot of talent on that team. And were it not for the fact that their starting point guard and shooting guard got hurt against the Clippers, I think they would have been okay.
They also have like NBA teammate of the year and defensive second team member Mike Conley, his only accolades other than his all-star appearance last season.
Yeah, Mike Conley is great. I think Joe Ingles is still good. And yeah, I think Rudy Gay.
I know I mentioned this a lot, but Mike Conley only having one defensive second team award for his entire grit and grind years is a fucking crime. It's a crime.
It is a travesty.
It is. It's terrible.
I guess that means Sweet Lou Williams has made more All-Star games than Mike Conley?
Yes.
I love Sweet Lou, but that's insane.
I don't know if you guys saw this, but when Mike Conley got Luka Doncic's, or someone's, actually it was Kawhi's All-Star spot, fucking DeMar DeRozan immediately was like, this is bullshit. That should be my spot. I have more awards than Mike Conley. What the fuck?
Oh, that's so weird. I apologize. Sweet Lou, never been to an All-Star game either, which makes sense.
Good. He's just out here getting buckets and not guarding anyone.
Yeah, he does not deserve it as much as I love him.
Yeah, so I think I like the Jazz. Like, they've got a lot of depth. They've played together a lot of years. They basically play no bad players, which is a recipe for winning a lot of games. And I think if they come out of the West, then they might get a wounded Nets team or a wounded Bucks team. All right. Well, I think that's it for our NBA show. Thank you, ZP.
I'm always here to talk about hoops and also slowly descend into madness as a Sacramento Kings fan.
Thank you, Pete.
Yep. Always a good time talking basketball. I am excited to watch this whole Sixers circus unfold for 82 games.
Agreed.
It's good. It's good television.
It's going to be so uncomfortable.
It's going to be so bad.
And thank you, listeners. Reminder, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can also support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/deeplistens. Till next time, peace.